Hi everyone, my name's Jennifer, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey and my passion behind being a mixed media artist. So I primarily identify as a mixed media artist. I went to school, both undergrad and graduate, for printmaking. And printmaking was always like my baby, like the thing I always wanted to be very good at, to get all the technique and the skill down, and to just feel really competent in that area of my life. It was my degree, so there was a bit of pressure and a little bit of rigidity as well, which was welcome and not welcome. But fast forward to 2021 and the past probably 3 years or so, and I would say my heart is definitely in the mixed media world. As someone with a printmaking background, there's still a lot of things that I carry with me through my work these days, and that is like the repetition of imagery, iconographic imagery that has like a meaning, kind of isolating imagery. So there's still like things that I take back from the printmaking world, and that core essence or element is essentially imagery to tell a story. And so that's where I'm at today, and that's where I've been for the past maybe 3 years or so. And I am someone who's just trying to get away from that idea of being labeled in a box as a creative person. I don't want to be confined as a printmaker. One of the reasons why I decided to get away from printmaking is because it's actually quite toxic. Many of the techniques and utensils and materials, not utensils, used are toxic, not good for your health, not good to breathe in. And I know that it does have a really rich history, and it's beautiful and gorgeous, and that's why I studied it in the first place. But as someone who's becoming more and more health conscious and environmentally conscious, I'm trying to kind of switch that label away from myself. So I do still do printmaking, but I am not a a very strict or technically historical kind of printmaker. So I'm using inks that are all soy-based or water-based, and mostly relief printmaking and things of that nature. So that's kind of been my journey. I'm still using printmaking, but it's not kind of a confined label that I'm sticking myself in. So for me, my main kind of sense of joy in visual art is behind mixed media art. And so mixed media, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, is an art form that essentially you can pull from your environment. Like nothing is off limits. Whatever you have is what you should and can use. And for me, as someone who is trying to be more creative in a sustainable way, I'm trying to pull from my environment, meaning the things that I have available. So what kind of paper do I have in my flat files? What kind of things can I recycle? What are some old paint tubes and some watercolor? And definitely prioritizing what I have around me. I'm trying not to buy too much new art supplies these days, just because I'm trying to minimize and to limit my tool my tool set, because it can be a lot to pull from. So I'm finding that through limitation, I am able to pull from my environment and see what's going to work best for whatever kind of work that I'm trying to put out into the world. And for me, it's also very intuitive. So it's not pre-scripted or programmable. It's just kind of that surprise, that serendipitous, kind of spontaneous approach to art making that I find to be really, really enjoyable and super duper fun, and just like constant problem solving. So for me, mixed media is all about approaching it intuitively. So maybe having a very rough idea, but not anything that's like set in stone, or that is so rigid that there's no room for error, there's no room for mistakes, there's no room for what I would call just being too concrete about the way you approach your art making. So it works for a lot of people, but not particularly myself. For anyone who might be guessing, I am an ENFP, so I am very much I can be all over the place, and I'm kind of like a shiny toy syndrome kind of person. So I really love that interactive approach to art making and the surprise that you get at the end. Like for me, that's like the most enjoyable part. Granted, there are many works that I do toss to the side because they tend to be not quite what I want them to be. So it's more or less like viewing each work as a fossil. So you create something, is it great? That's wonderful. Is it not? Then it's a fossil. It's like a stepping stone to get you to where you are today. And mixed media for me means using, like I said, the things that I have available, but also, trying new techniques, trying new things. And a lot of times for me is works on paper. So as a printmaking artist and someone who loves drawing, working on paper is just the way that I like to do things. And I'm hoping to transition more into a digital sphere, but for now I really love like the tactile approach to art making and the visceralness, the way that you can feel and sense and get like a overall kind of reaction to the medium that you're working with. So mixed media means mixing many different media together, and for me that means India ink with maybe some old recycled screen prints or block cuts. It can mean acrylic, gloss gel, watercolor, pen, ink, marker, gesso, gouache. Pretty much the sky's the limit, and that's what's so fun about it. Mixed media is truly a never-ending cycle, and there's many examples throughout art history of mixed media approaches to art making, and not just in the two-dimensional or flat surface realm. It can be done in installation spaces or sculptural. Everything's the limit, but I'm just speaking from my own unique experience. So I just wanted to show this piece here. This one is called Woodpecker's Dream, and this one is a mixed media work. I'll try to get a bigger one on the screen there, but it's a work that involves quite a bit of interesting things happening. So right here is a relief print. So this was something that was carved on a piece of linoleum block, and then it was printed, and then it was glued onto the substrate or the paper, and then painted over. So there's many different approaches, there's many ways to kind of practice mixed media art making. And then another thing I wanted to point out is in the background there's like this floral kind of decorative element, and that's actually a silk screen that I had done in my house, my first time since graduate school. So printmaking is still very much alive in my practice, and this is a piece that reflects kind of my love of nature and of observing nature and kind of the overall sense or feeling that you get while you're viewing these things. There's kind of this transcendental state. You're more or less in the moment, you're enjoying what you're looking at. It's very pleasurable, it's beautiful, you don't know what to expect. So it's like also that same sense of spontaneity of like not knowing what's going to happen next and the excitement behind that, and then taking that particular event and trying to create something from it. So for me, that's the most fun part about being a mixed media artist, and I just wanted to share some of my own work so you can get a little bit more familiar with my practice, what kind of work that I make, what is my work talking about, what am I passionate about. And for me, nature is definitely at the epicenter, kind of in relation to ourselves as conscious beings and how we're perceiving our world. So this is one that I'm just super happy with. I love it. It's like a very juicy art piece. It has a lot of iridescent copper colors, and it just kind of paints this very beautiful scene of nature without being overly descriptive or too realistic. And for me, that's where the fun lies. And in creating work is not portraying something that looks exactly as it is. Like, to me, that's honestly, it can be a little boring. And I know for some artists, that's like, what's the best thing about being an artist is their ability to render something perfectly, right? And I think that's really cool and like super admirable. But for me personally, it's more about like what's the emotional quality that's tied to creating this particular piece. So for me, this one is like this kind of caught you in the moment, deer in the headlights, like observing this large woodpecker, the pileated woodpecker, and kind of just observing the bigness of it and how it, hammers its beak against the tree, and the sound that it makes and the way it makes you feel, and like understanding why is the beak hard, why is it long, what is it trying to get to, like all these different attributes in the animal kingdom that's just so structured for their particular way of life. So I just wanted to share that today. I hope you found this interesting. I'm trying to kind of keep my channel going and adding some more information based on myself as a visual artist, talking about my works and my experience, because I know art has a really special place in culture and society and in human history, and it's something that I just want to keep talking about and sharing with others. So thank you all so much for watching, and if you're interested in learning more about mixed media art practices, feel free to check out my Skillshare channel where I go more in depth on some of the different approaches in addition to some printmaking, and I hope everyone finds some time to be outside and soak up the wildness of everything. So thank you all for watching, and please subscribe or share if you want to spread the goodness of some art practice in nature. So thank you all, and enjoy your day.